the original Season 2 finale, Ashes to Ashes. Now, the first thing I want to do is give huge props to the writers for this season because they made an epic villain that was honestly 5 episodes long. Like, this entire season, aside from this last handful of episodes, really just spoke of Dahlia. It was like, this is what's happening with Dahlia, this is who she is. They basically set up her backstory, and by the time she came in, it was seriously the end of the season. It was like a month and a half with this character, and they made her a great villain, and I love that. I thought it was amazing, and one of the big things, one of my big ideas was there's just no way they're going to bring this villain in at the end of a season and still kill her at the end of the season with only, 6 whole episodes. But that's exactly what they did. And I think they did it well. I think it was very well done. They had a huge, crazy twist ending. I didn't expect them to do it that way. But everything happens. We go through the plan. My idea, which I had in the last episode after they were talking about Klaus's plan, was to have Dahlia linked to him. I was kind of right. He did use that dagger on himself. We did find out that it wasn't exactly Dahlia proof, and she had it melted and broke the curse at the same time. But I thought it was well done. It had a cool, intense little moment where it's like they had to rush to a solution. They had to deal with Davina wanting to bring back Cole, and it's like, if he comes back, then they can't get their mother back, and it's her blood that they need to kill Dahlia because she's the one that broke Dahlia's heart. So they had, like, at the same moment, it's like Davina wants to bring back Cole. She's using his ashes, seemingly. And we have Freya, who is holding Marcel up against the wall, and she doesn't want to kill Klaus, but it's like she feels like she has to in order to break this cycle and stop Freya. It's like the only way. And that doesn't work, and then what Davina does is actually bring back Esther, and they do it what I have to assume is going to be the final time. They brought the original actress back. They brought her back in her actual normal body, and they actually brought her back really to kill her off. And I was like, well, that's pretty freaking crazy. Like, it was insane that they did that, but that was the plan. That's what they needed to do. And I actually think it makes perfect sense the way they did it, because Esther's plan the entire season and the series in general has always been to stop her children from being monsters. But when it came down to it, she decided to stop her children from dying. And it was just really well done. It's like, because she did always admit that she cared, but she always wanted to take them out of the forms that they were in. But knowing that it was either, them living as vampires or them dying forever, she chose to let her children live. And she took out her sister. She had them, she wrapped the chains around Dahlia to weaken her powers, which I thought she did. I didn't think of that until just now, honestly. I thought she did it just to choke her, and that's what distracted her, but it's the fact that it was the chains that weakened her magic, since she had them wrapped around her, just like she was handcuffed. So that allowed Freya to help get the White Oak out of them. Also a huge moment, Dahlia bursting the White Oak stake. That means there is no White Oak stake anymore. That was, if I remember right, that was the last White Oak stake. That was the last thing they had, because they no longer had any of the ash from the initial White Oak tree. So that was why they had the White Oak stake, and it was to obviously use it against Klaus if they could. And, it's done. Like, it's gone. I love the way they did it, too. It was like, Klaus is like, it's 3 against 1. Even if you get one of us, the other 2 will tear you apart. And she's like, that's smart, but, good thinking, but small thinking. And she just blows it up, and it's just like particles in the air. And I thought that was so cool to see that happen. And she basically gets all 3 of them by forcing them to, like, inhale the particles. So I thought that was actually really awesome. I thought that was just a really cool way to do that. It was really sweet. But, she blows it up, so that's completely gone now. Like, the particles just, they're off into the air. There's no more White Oak stakes. There's no more White Oak ash from the White Oak tree. There's nothing that can kill the originals anymore. So I don't know how they're going to do these villains coming up throughout the rest of this series. There's going to be other issues, of course, because they're easily going to have people coming after people that aren't the originals. Rebecca also having the option to switch between bodies now, or at least being in, I guess, the newer body for a while now. We can assume it's going to be the entire next season and maybe even the season afterwards. But her having that ability to switch back into her own body, but being in this witch body, does technically make her vulnerable. So there is the option for her character. Elijah and Klaus, I think it's a bit different. They can easily be kidnapped. There is still the blade that can have them daggered and incapacitated, but there's really nothing that can kill them. There's also the other original daggers that can, knock them out, but nothing that can officially destroy them. Like that was the last one. It's gone. So they kind of have a happy ending in a sense. Like there are obviously some highs and lows from what Klaus did, but that's one of the highs. Like that little end battle destroyed the last White Oak stake. He can't use it to threaten anyone, but at the same time, the only person Klaus ever used it on or tried to use it on was Michael, and really vice versa. So it's gone now. That weapon is out of the canon. It's gone from the universe. There are no more weapons of that caliber, at least, to take out the originals. I'm sure there's going to be something that comes up, like, surprise, here's something else that can kill them, but the handheld, hey, anyone and everyone can just steal this random thing and, kill somebody with it, that's gone, so that won't be a factor for the series anymore until a new, even more powerful, crazy weapon happens. And it can be done. Like, obviously, Davina was trying to do that before, and she mentioned that she had it, but it didn't exactly play out, so far. Like, I don't believe that's the blade Klaus used on himself. I don't think it was. It was just one of the regular daggers that they normally use, and, that's gone, so they have less of those now, too. But she does still have that blade, if I remember right. I could be forgetting whether or not they destroyed it or not. I really can't remember. But that is still out there, and it's meant to kill Klaus. I can assume that would kill Elijah as well, or Rebecca if she's in her original body too. But it was really cool. The fighting, the infight was pretty nice, and the way they did it, where Esther actually helped them defeat Dahlia, and Klaus stabs the knife through Esther into Dahlia's heart, and that kills them both. And they do and I love the way they did it. I thought it looked cool how how they positioned them right with the transition into sort of the open field and stuff. It was just like an instantaneous transition, and it just looked seamless, and I love the way that they did it. So that looked really cool. The little conversation they had at the end where they were like their younger selves and stuff, and they just worked things out in the end, and then they're Ash. And I love Klaus's line. It's like, well, it looks like now we're officially orphans, because they killed off Michael episodes ago, and then Esther's original body was destroyed, so she is officially gone. I'm sure she could come back too because of the whole witch connection thing with the ancestors and stuff like that. So she may or may not still have that option somehow, but for now it seems like she is officially gone. So I thought it was just a great way to end it. There's still a ton of other stuff that happened in this episode or really from the last episode, that's still unresolved. Of course, the big thing is Haley and the rest of the werewolves being re-affected, really, for everyone else. Like, Haley's the first time, but everyone being hit with the curse again, so they have to find a way to break that spell all over again in the next season. Haley she didn't exactly force him, but she asked Elijah to promise her that he would be there for Haley, or be there for Hope. And I think it should be interesting to see what happens in this next season. And they kind of teased that with the little ending thing with the writers/producers, I believe. Which I didn't get to see the whole thing. I only got like that first little bit where they were like, to see if Elijah and Klaus, and then it cut off because the stupid recorder always ends really early. So I didn't get to see the rest of that preview. I have to find what random hints they may or may not have put in that ending scene, which they probably didn't put anything in there, but it's way better than what we normally get for a season finale, where it's like, all right, wait, months until it comes on again. They at least came on and was like, see if this happens and see if that happens. So I'll find that, maybe in a couple of days when it's uploaded online. But I thought it was well done. I liked, Elijah having this conflict now. He's reached this boiling point. Like, really everyone has, which is what I love. Like, they did kind of the big ending where it's like, Klaus did the ultimate plan. He did the ultimate thing to save his daughter, but he really did destroy his family, and they're all kind of just going their separate ways. Like, Rebecca's gone. We really don't know what Freya's going to do, so she may or may not stick around just to help with Hope as well. And Elijah, of course, will be there because of Haley, and he does obviously care for Hope, but he's going to have his issues. And then we have Marcel, who's kind of going to be taking the reins over again. We have Davina, who, and they also did this, like, they like kind of paralleled the final episode of this season with the first episode, with Hope in the arms of one of her family members, and she's being told the story of the king and everything. So they started it with Rebecca, they ended it with Klaus, and they sort of show where enemies and allies lied in the beginning, and now the end, where it's like some things are resolved. You know, friends were lost, new enemies were made, and they kind of go to Davina now, who's really gonna have it out against them, kind of like she did in the last season, I guess, in the the beginning of the last season and beginning of this season. Really, she hasn't been on their side at all, outside of Cole, and she did like Rebecca a bit, and that kind of changed in this episode as well. So yeah, she's gonna be an enemy, a very powerful enemy. Vincent is gonna be there as well, so he's gonna be in the next season, which I think is cool because I like his character. Cammy kind of convinces him, like, he mentions how she could be the baddest witch of all, and so it's like, she does need a leader then, or a mentor, to help her hone her skills and become a witch that helps the community instead of, burns the land or something. So he'll be in there next season. Of course, Cammy will. Cammy and Klaus, I don't know. I'll save that for a little bit later, but the parallels that they had with the enemies and the allies I thought was really well done. Everyone everyone kind of left Klaus and the baby because it was like he kind of destroyed the family. They knew that there was no more danger, so they could kind of leave him alone. But Rebecca's going off. She's going to train with her magic. We'll see how that plays out with her and Davina, because obviously that was the big thing with Davina. It's like, oh, you went back to your own body. So now that she's able to have this option, it'll allow her to grow as a witch, and she may be able to get back into the good graces of Davina, and Davina might actually teach her, because that was her one opportunity, as she said, to use earth magic. That was her, once in a lifetime chance from the ancestors, and sadly she got tricked. So, Rebecca's gonna have to do something to kind of get back on her good side, but I'm sure she can at least convince her, like, hey, I chose to get back in this body, which is completely mortal. It might be a witch body, but it's still a mortal body, and I did that because I want to save my brother. I want to keep my promise. So she might be able to convince her, and they'll team up again. But she's gone. Like I said, we have no clue what's going to happen with Freya, and what she's going to do with her completely free life now. And then we have Elijah, who is staying because of Haley, but he just has nothing but animosity towards his brother now, because he basically destroyed the two women that Elijah ever cared about, as far as the series goes. Even the lore, really, outside of, like, Katerina, or Katrina, whatever they call it, Katerina. And I can't even remember if he actually was in love with her. I think he was, because that was, like, her thing, was just every brother always loved her. But it was like, one woman gets completely killed, which I mentioned in the last episode. That just sucked. Like, she was only in this season, and I liked her character. It seemed like she would have been a cool, sort of like second in command to Marcel, or third in command if you count Josh. But now she's gone, and obviously Haley's hit with the curse, so she's only human once a month. So Elijah has like nothing but hate for his brother now, and he never really has that. They have their issues, obviously, but this was like the end for him. So he's really only there for Haley, and that's obviously going to cause some conflict between him and Klaus, because it's Klaus. He causes conflict no matter what. It could be sunshine and rainbows, and Klaus will destroy all that because he's Klaus. So we'll see how that stuff plays out. One thing I did notice is that we hadn't seen Josh in like the past couple episodes. I'm sure if we see him next season, they'll kind of just explain it. Like, after Aiden was killed off, he did actually leave. He just took off. And they may have mentioned that, and I missed it. But the last time we saw him was at Aiden's funeral, and that was really it. And then we hadn't seen him after that. Even in that episode, they didn't really have it where he went to Davina or anything to say goodbye. At least not that I can remember. So I could easily be wrong, and they definitely wrote that in and I missed it. But I did notice that he was missing. That was really he was like the only person that was actually missing. Everyone else has either already been killed off or was in the episode. But I'm excited for season 3. I think it should be really interesting to see, for one, who the enemy is going to be, because my big thing was like, well, they introduced her in this season. It was like, even if she wasn't in the season, they introduced her. I thought initially from the very beginning she wasn't even going to be in this season at all. It was going to be like the season finale, here's Dahlia. That's honestly how I thought that was going to go. I think a lot of us did. And then it's like, here she is for, like I said, the last 5 or 6 episodes. And it was still amazing. It was still like this incredibly powerful villain. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about it, is that it wasn't a villain that built up over time. It wasn't a villain that was like, here's this powerful, powerful villain that takes the entire season to defeat. It still had its moments of like any TV show where it's like she easily could have just stayed and killed them. Like in this episode when she was bringing Klaus towards the dagger and Marcel jumped in the way. And that freaked me out because I thought Marcel was going to get hit and killed. But after that happened, she took off. But they did kind of make it logical where it's like, well, that messed up, so who gives a crap? And she just took Freya because she wanted to get her revenge on her. But, I thought it was awesome. I loved it, so I can't wait to see who's the main villain. Obviously, how they solve the curse with Haley, which I think would be simple. I can't remember how they did it. I think it was just the daylight rings, or the moonlight rings before, and then they fixed that with the hybrid stuff. But I guess because it's been attached to hybrids, it can't just be moonlight rings anymore. So it's a little bit different. So I'm excited to see how they figure that out. What happens with Marcel, what happens with Davina and Vincent kind of working together as a team. And also Cammy and Klaus, which, like I said, them, in the end, I'm like, I think everyone's just waiting for them. It's like, come on, they obviously have feelings for each other. I thought he was going to kiss her, and then he was like, thanks for the drink, and then he takes off, and it's just like, especially after the speech he gave, it was like, she mentioned it could have been someone else, but he's like, if it wasn't here, it would have been looking at a painting or listening to jazz. And he says, like, this super serious stuff, like, I would have found you, and then he just switches at the end, and he backs off, and he leaves, and it's like, man, that's kind of messed up, kind of messing with her. Like, anyone that would ever say that and then just leave, it's like that, I don't know, it's just like mixed signals, obviously, but it's Klaus, so at the same time, it's not exactly mixed signals. It's just Klaus being crazy and wanting this family, but constantly destroying it. And I think Elijah mentioned that, or maybe it was Rebecca. It could have even been Freya. I think it may have been Rebecca, though, and because it was someone who mentioned that he always does that, so it couldn't have been Freya. But it's like, he does always do that. He always wants to do the ultimate thing to protect and save the family, but he always does it by destroying the family. Or he always wants to defeat his enemies to save the family, but in order to defeat his enemies and save his family, he always destroys his entire family in order to win. So it's just him. He even destroys himself. So we'll see what happens in the next season, but I definitely love this finale. Surprising ending. Them, bringing Esther back was probably the craziest thing to me, but it also tied into the stuff with Davina for the next season, where it's like that was her opportunity to bring back Cole, so it gives her more of a reason to hate the originals because they kind of tricked her, and now she's gonna grow even more powerful and might teeter on that edge of being one of the baddest witches or one of the best. So love the finale, of course. I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. I know this is a long review, but, for the season finale, it's one of those episodes. You just have to talk about it. What I think might happen, which is probably going to be totally wrong. I was obviously wrong about everything for Dahlia this season, thinking she wouldn't come in until this episode. But, I love this finale. I think it was really well done. I think the dynamic with the family is probably my favorite part about the ending. Like, after everything completely wrapped up, at least, leading into season 3, that's my favorite part for sure. It's like the family is really, really broken apart by choice. It's not like, in the last season where Rebecca had to leave, so in the beginning of this, it was her and Hope because they had to go on the run because they had enemies and they were hiding the fact that she was alive and stuff like that. Now it's just like they've defeated the enemy that was coming after the baby. There is nothing else. But it's like Klaus just went way too far and he broke the family. Like, Rebecca left. She's going to try to get her brother back. Her other brother, obviously. Frey is an enigma. Who knows what's going to happen there. And then we have Elijah, who's sticking around just because, you know, the woman that he loves, who's still alive at least, asked him to be around. So the broken family dynamic, that's sort of a mixed match puzzle piece that some parts kind of fit, but for the most part nothing does. Without a doubt my favorite part leading into season 3. But I want to know yours, what you guys thought about this entire season compared to the first one. Of course, the finale. What do you guys think of Dahlia and how they did her character, with, you know, her being talked about for most of the season compared to actually being in most of the season? She's in the last 5 episodes. So obviously I loved it. I think they did it well. Really surprised me that they officially introduced her, like had her in this show, and killed her by the end of it. So leaves a lot open for season 3. Like I said, I want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.